It's by truckers for truckers. This is the Channel 19 Experience. Let's hit the road.
All right. Well, tonight we've got a guest from down south. I've been talking to a lot of Minnesotans lately, so it's nice to have a different accent on the phone than my own. Uh, Barry Trahan joins us, Executive Director of the Louisiana Truck Shows. Welcome to the show, Barry.
Thank you for having me, Tony. Much appreciated.
So, before we start talking about the truck show you've got coming up here in October, let's walk it back a couple pages in the logbook and talk about your how you got into trucking in the first place and how your career started.
Sure. I graduated high school in 1988, and when I graduated high school, I went to college for 3 semesters for political science. And after the third semester, I was bored to death, and I'm like, you know what, this ain't for me. So I hung around Louisiana till I was 21, and on my 21st birthday, I took a Greyhound bus to Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
And when I got to Las Vegas, I signed up for casino dealing school to be a casino dealer. And I stayed there. I graduated school. I stayed there for 3 years. I had a blast. It was a great time working in the different casinos that I worked in. I got a ton of stories, but we're going to save that for another day. But I stayed there for 3 years. When I was 24, 25, probably 24, I came back and I didn't have a job, and I went to work as a yard hand for a company called G&H Seed Company. South Louisiana, our main crop product around here is rice. Where I live at in Crowley, Louisiana, Crowley is known as the rice capital of the world. We produce the most rice and process the most rice in the world. And I went to work for a company that supplied the fertilizer and seed for that industry. And I didn't have a car. I was a young man. I was a young heathen, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I went to work for G&H Seed, and I literally, it's going to sound like a story, but I didn't have a car, but I knew I wanted to do something with myself. I wasn't quite sure what. And I walked to work every day about 5.5 miles. I'd walk there and I'd beg somebody from the facility to give me a ride back, which most of the time it worked out. But a friend of mine, Darren Baronet, Darren worked for G&H Seed. His father worked for G&H Seed for years as truck drivers. And one day I was walking to work, and Darren, he was in an old cab over for G&H. He pulled over, picked me up, and brought me to work. And he said, Barry, you need to go to work for a farmer and learn how to drive a truck. And you'll have a way to work at least. So I went to work for a farmer shortly thereafter, Ray Trahan from Kaplan, Louisiana. He was one of the biggest rice farmers in our area. And I went to work for him, and he asked me if I could drive a truck. And I said, well, I know how to wash a truck, but as far as driving, I have no idea. And I went to work for Ray, and Ray had me driving the truck on the farm. It was old 1978 Peterbilt day cab, 13 speed. And I tore that old truck up trying to learn how to shift. But 2 years later, I got my CDL, and I just started doing different kind of trucking. I pulled tankers, grain hoppers. I did oversize on the farm, moved combines around. So I did that for a while, and I got tired of truck driving in Louisiana, and I decided I wanted to go to flight school. So I had a house, my first house I purchased. I purchased that house for $15,000. My mortgage payment was $110 a month. I paid off that house in about 5 years. But after I decided to go to flight school, I sold the house, and I took that money from the sale of the house, and I enrolled in flight school in Daytona Beach, Florida. And I come to find out flight school was very expensive. And I think I had like $12,000 for flight school, and I went through that in about 3 months, taking flight lessons. So when I got down to my last thousand, I went over to the Freightliner dealership in Orlando, Florida, And I didn't think I was going to get approved, but I bought my first truck. It was an old Swift truck. It was governed at 55 miles an hour. I took a test drive and I told the salesman was with me. I told him, I said, man, I said, I'll buy the truck if y'all can turn it up to 85. But I said, it's 55 mile an hour for the birds, you know? So lo and behold, I got approved for that truck, and I started running from Daytona Beach, Florida. Over, I was running a flatbed for a friend of mine. They owned a tree farm, and I was running trees from dragonwood trees from Astor, Florida, which is outside of Daytona Beach, and I was running to San Diego, California, to the port with these trees, and the trees would go overseas to China. And what China would do with it, they would make silkwood trees, artificial trees.
Hmm.
And from San Diego, I would catch a load and I'd run up to Stamford, Connecticut. Not Stamford, Connecticut, Bangor, Maine. And from
Mhm.
Bangor, Maine, when I got empty, I would deadhead to Stamford, Connecticut, and I would haul computers back down to Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay.
And I started, I was making a ton of money. I was loving it. Diesel, enjoy. The majority of the times after coming off my days off, I would deadhead to Georgia just to buy diesel right across the state line, because diesel back then in Georgia was like 89 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
And versus Florida, I think Florida back then was like $1.35, $1.40. So, when I was ready to go back to work, I would just deadhead to Georgia, get my diesel there, and pick up a load around, around the state line there. But I did that for several years, and on one of the trips that I made to Bangor, Maine, I met a girl, and she was from around Springfield, Massachusetts, and we ended up dating, and I ended up moving there for 10 years. Thank God, me and that girl, they owned a construction company, and they did a lot of work out of Boston area, all of New England, New York City. And I worked for them for 10 years. And me and this young lady, excuse me, we fought at work, we fought at home, we fought every day. And I did that for 10 years. And finally I said, you know what? I said, I'm not gonna marry her, so I'm gonna leave her. Because I just got tired of fighting. And I ended up coming back home, and I've been back home in Louisiana for about 15 years now. And
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah. And then when did you start getting into heavy haul and stuff like that?
Oh, I got into heavy haul. I did a little bit of heavy haul from day one back
Mm.
in 1994 when I was working for Glen Ray on the farm.
Yeah.
We had to move combines from one field to another field. I would move his combines for him. And just throughout the years, wherever I worked at, anytime they needed a piece of equipment move, I was the first to volunteer because I wanted to get into heavy haul. I was amazed at how these guys could move big, huge equipment like that, and I wanted to get into that. And I want to say I've been sick for 2 years, so I haven't worked for 2 years. But before that, I did strictly heavy haul for 7 years.
Yeah. And what kind of things were you hauling?
I did anything and everything. Every time I would go to a truck stop, the young truck drivers, I had a load on, 12 wide, 13 wide, whatever it was. And these young truck drivers would come up to me and say, man, can you give me some advice on how to get into heavy haul? Give me a little bit of some recommendations. I said, yeah. I said the biggest thing is to get started in heavy haul, you want to get started with flatbed. From flatbed, you go to step deck. From step deck, get it hooked up with a company that does RGN work. And I said the biggest thing when you start your flatbed career, the biggest thing is to never take the word no out your vocabulary. Never say no, because when you say no, that you're going to become that no god, the guy that's afraid to do, the big stuff, to do the tough stuff, the New York City runs. I would tell these guys, if a New York City run comes up, take it, grab that thing, because you're going to be known as that driver that can get it done. And I would tell these guys like Chicago, Boston, the difficult places, Chicago, Boston, LA, Portland, Seattle, New York City, Newark, New Jersey, the places that the truck drivers don't want to go, the young truck drivers. I told them, I said, once you go do it the first time, you got the hard part over.
Yeah.
Not the rest of it's easy. And that's how I pretty much geared my career. I never said no. I can't remember one time where I said no. I was always, if a broker called me up and said, "Hey, I got a load that has to get to New York City," it picks up wherever it picked up, I would never say no. Now we'd have some negotiations on the rates because the rates have been in the tank the past 5, 6, 7 years. But
Yeah.
that was the biggest advice I would tell these young drivers is don't say no. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you want to succeed in the trucking industry, you know, uh, take them difficult loads, take them difficult cities. And before you do anything, make sure your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted. Make sure you have uh, not only a safe way in, like if you're going into New York City, I would tell these guys, don't find one way into the destination. Find multiple ways, because in a big city like that, there's road construction that pops up out of nowhere. They got
Yeah.
streets that are closed, roads that are closed. Always have a secondary route. And I told them, I said, your biggest. I told them I would tell them throw your GPS out the window. It don't matter if you got a car GPS, a trucker GPS. Throw that thing out the window because it will get you in trouble, especially in Baltimore, Maryland, going to the port of Baltimore. That's a whole nother story. But uh, I would tell them the best tool that they have in their arsenal as far as trucking is the Google Maps with the Google Street View.
Yeah.
I would tell them every time you see an overpass around New York City, New Jersey, drop it down to Google Street View and look at what that clearance is. Um, if you have a questionable turn that you got to make, drop it down on Google Street View and see if you can make that turn. If you can't make that turn, don't get yourself in a situation, because if you have a question about a turn or a clearance, you will get in a severe problem. It
Yeah.
happens to all of us.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. I know it sucks and it's a pain and you feel like an idiot if you got to back out of something, but the alternatives are often a heck of a lot worse.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'd rather get my butt chewed by a state trooper than go and total $1 million excavator on the back of your RGN because you
Right.
thought that you might be able to make it.
For sure. For sure. So then tell me about the truck show. Like how you've been a part of it since the beginning?
Yep, I'm the founder. I was the brains behind it, and the way it started, when
Yeah.
I first started truck driving over the road, I worked on the farm for Glen Ray for G&H Seed. And after I did that, I went to Daytona Beach and I started, I bought a truck and I ran. And I started, the first time I went to Walcott, I had never heard about truck shows. I didn't even know a truck show existed. I was a new driver. And the first time I went to the Iowa 80 truck stop in Walcott, Iowa, I was amazed. I was like, wow, look at this. I went to the museum that's right next door. And I just started asking questions. And they were telling me, the employees told me that they had a truckers jamboree every year. And I want to say it was like 1997 when I found out about that. And I told myself, I am going to that truckers jamboree next year. Where the following year would pop up and I couldn't make it because of a load or something. Something always happened. And years go by, a decade goes by, and I still never made it to the Walcott Truckers Jamboree. And I heard about Mats as the years went by. I tried to make it to Mats for several years, and all these big truck shows that I wanted to go and be a part of to experience, I just never made it. And I told some heavy haul. I had picked up a load in south southeast Oregon. It was a short run, a heavy haul load, and it was going over to the port in Seattle, Washington. And a friend of mine, he was running with me, and they got one big truck stop in Seattle. It's actually in Vancouver, and we had planned up on meeting at that truck stop and to spend a weekend there. And I told him we were talking about Walcott Truck Show, the Match Truck Show, and my friend's name was Hippie. I don't want to say his last. Hippie's a private truck driver. When I talk about Hippie, I just say Hippie. But Hippie's from the Longview, Texas area, and Hippie told me, he said, "Dad," he said, "they don't have no truck shows in Louisiana." I said, "Yeah, they got a couple of small ones, nothing fancy, but I said, yeah, I want to make it to Walcott." Or he said, "Man," he said, he goes, "Barry, when you go to work for 3 or 4 months. You're never home." He said, "What you ought to do is just make your own truck show, do a truck show in Louisiana." And I said, "Fool," I said, "you go do a truck show." I said, "Do you have any idea what it takes to do a truck show?" And he said, "Barry," he said, "I'm telling you," he said, "around Lafayette, Louisiana, where you're from," he said, "that would go over big." And I went, "Yeah, it probably would." But I said, "Do you know the vast amount of resources, financial resources, uh, the people resources that you need to pull something like that off?" I said, "Hippie, I'm a broke truck driver." I said, I ain't got no money to put on a truck show." And he kept pushing me the whole weekend. He would push me. "Barry, do a truck show. I'm telling you, you could do it." And I'm like, "Yeah, Hippie." I said, "You're on drugs, man." Well, that night, that Saturday night, I went. This is what made my mind up. It was I call it a fluke, but I think it was the good Lord touching my heart. Uh, I went into sleep that night, and I'm looking at Facebook like I do every night, looking at what everybody's up to. And an organization called the Way Training Center came across my news feed, and I had no idea what the Way Training Center was, and it kept popping up. I was up to about 2, 3 in the morning on Facebook, and I'd exit out. I wasn't following it, but this Way Training Center kept popping up in my news feed.
Mhm.
So I was like, click on the link and see what it is. So when I clicked on it, I seen one of my childhood friends, Jared Morgan. That was his organization. Jared Morgan was a truck driver as long as I've been a truck driver. And Jared, coming up through the years, he struggled with life controlling issues, drugs and alcohol. And he quit truck driving. He went to several rehabilitation organizations to get better, to be able to be a successful member of society, and it worked for him. And it was a Christian-based organization, and as the months go by, it was put on his heart. He started going to church every Sunday. He got active in the church, and he decided with some other friends of his that also struggled with life controlling addictions that were now doing much better in life.
Mhm.
They decided to start an organization called the Way Training Center for Men. And they didn't know how to get it started. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how they were going to fund it, but they knew that if they did it, the need was there because South Louisiana, our area, is inundated with people that are struggling with life controlling addictions. Long story short about that organization, they have a campus, they have a school, they have a church, and they house anywhere between 80 to 100 men 7 days
Wow.
a week, year round. And it's an intensive 16-month program. It's church based through the church. They're pretty much under lock and key, and it's for a good reason. Um, the first, I want to say 9 months, is at the training facility, taking courses on how to overcome the addictions through Christ. And after the ninth month, after they finish that portion of the program, they ask them, "Do you want to go to trade school or do you want to go to college?" And most of them go to trade school for truck driving. They want to be
Hmm.
truck drivers. And as I'm in the sleeper at this truck stop and I'm going through this, I'm like, it gave me goosebumps. I'm like, well, I said, if we're going to do a truck show, this would be the perfect reason to have a truck show to help this organization with funding to where they can continue to do what they're doing
Yeah.
financially. And I had it talked to, well, I'm jumping off track a little bit, but after they have a 93% success rate of the guys once they go to trade school, of graduating trade school. And once they graduate, the school assists them in finding employment in truck driving. A lot of the time it's hard because the guys are coming out of truck driving school through the local SLCC, Southwest Louisiana Community College. They're coming out and they have felonies on their record. And if you have
Right.
a felony on your record, it's tough to get a job as a truck driver. So
Yeah.
that the only option that leaves you is to find a local company willing to give you a chance. The problem with that is the local companies won't hire you until you have a year or two experience.
Right.
So it's tough for a lot of these guys. And I'm going to get back to that shortly. But when these guys go to work, they get a job, they start truck driving, they're still living at the facility. They don't get kicked out to the curb. They continue to live at this facility. And as they're living there, they're saving their money, and the facility assists them with getting their own transportation and their own housing, rent house, apartment, whatever the case may be. And it works out great. They have a great business model, 93% success rate. Well, that night after I did all my research at 3 in the morning, I said, when I get home, I'm gonna reach out to my old friend Jared Morgan.
Yeah.
And when I got home, I woke up the following morning. It was a Saturday morning, and I sent Jared a message on Facebook, and I told him I had something to talk with him about, and I asked him if he would be interested in coming over to my house, visit with me in the shop. And he was over that Saturday morning, and I pitched my idea to him, and he loved it. We did the first truck show, the planning stages for the truck show, and the finances. We figured out it would cost $11,000 to put on that first truck show for a 1-day event. We wanted, T-shirts, trophies, awards, facility rentals, insurance, all the stuff that you need to put on a legitimate truck show. And long story short, at the end of the first year, we we grossed at the truck show $27,000 on our first year, and we were hoping for 50 trucks to come. I was scared to death that we were only going to have 15 or 20 trucks,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I was working so hard to get that 50. I didn't have a website. All I had was a Facebook page, and by 3 months before the date of the truck show, we had 100 trucks registered. 1 month before the truck show, we had 235 trucks registered. And
You
I
should have
get
been in
emotional.
sales, Barry.
Look, I get emotional every time I tell that story because I was so stressed out, and it was such a relief to have garnered that much support in that little bit of time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the truck show, we were able to give the Way Training Center $17,000.
That's amazing.
Um, I went at our truck show in that first year. That was we're in 2025. That was 2020. 2023 was the first one, November the 1st. And I want to say it was in January. I went in for a doctor's appointment because I was sick. I just felt run down. I was 53 years old at the time. I thought it was an old age. And I went to see my doctor, and my doctor did blood work. And she called me the next day, and she said, Barry, what are you doing and where are you at? I said, what are you talking about, doctor? And she goes, you're in stage 5 kidney failure. And I said, I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, where you at? I said, I'm at my house in my kitchen. And she said, don't drive to the hospital, find somebody to drive you. And I
Hmm.
said, no, I'm picking up a load in Galveston, Texas in the morning. I'm picking up an excavator going to the Northwest. And she said, Barry, she said, you're not going anywhere. She said, you're going to the hospital. And I'm like, she got mad. And when she got mad and her voice, her tone changed, I'm like, she's serious.
Hmm.
So I hung up with her. She said, call me when you get to the hospital. I hung up with her. I went to the hospital. The doctor, I get checked in. The doctor comes in and said, Barry, you're going to be here for a while. We're going to have surgery, and you're going to have surgery in the morning to try to put stents in your kidneys. And we're basically trying to keep you alive. And I went,
Mm.
what are you talking about? Because I was just tired. I didn't feel sick. And he explained everything that was going on. They did x-rays, and I don't want to get too much into what the problem is because it's long and drawn out, but um, they did surgery the next day, and the surgery was a failure. They couldn't get the stents in the kidneys, and they put me in the ambulance and transferred me to a hospital in New Orleans. And when I got there, three doctors came in, uh, and they said, "Barry, we're basically going to try to keep you alive." And they were like, "You're sick, and you're going to
Mm.
be here for a while." And I said, "Well, what's a while?" you know, I'm like, I got to go to work, man. And the doctor said, "You're not going to work for a while." He said, "You're in stage 5 kidney failure. You need dialysis and you need a kidney transplant." And I told him, I said, "You're wrong." I said, I fought him the whole time I was there. And I told him, I said, "I'm going to get better. And, I'm not sick." And I knew I was sick, but I didn't want to accept it. And unfortunately, the truck show was coming up for the second annual truck show, and I'm laid up in the hospital. And I basically, uh, I told myself, I said, "Well, since I'm laid up here in this hospital, I'm going to go ahead and we need a website. So I'm gonna go ahead and build a website." And I said, "Well, I don't know how to build a website." So I went to YouTube and I YouTubed how to build a website. And I found this long video that showed how to build websites on GoDaddy.
Yeah.
And so I created a GoDaddy account and I went back and forth to build our truck show website. And within, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, I had a fully functional website ready to be published. And I opened up the truck show Facebook page. I announced that the website was ready to start taking registrations. And before I got out the hospital, we raised $7,000 in vendor registration and truck registrations. We had over 100 trucks registered before I got out the hospital. And I was there for 3 weeks. And when I came home, I had tubes coming out my kidneys. I had tubes coming out places I don't want to talk about. I was a mess. And I got home and the doctor was like, "Don't, just stay on the sofa, stay in the bed, because I had they call it, I'm going to say this wrong, but I had nephrostomy, I can't say it too." And I was on that sofa for 3 months and I was having a pity party for severe depression for 3 months. And I was talking to my employer, PCM Logistics, who I was, a heavy haul driver for. And they said, "Barry," they said, "don't worry about your job. Your job's going to be here. We're not letting you go. We're going to continue to pay your insurance." They're still paying my insurance 2 years later. I can't speak enough good things about PCM Logistics. They've been so supportive. Um, so we get to the truck show, the second annual truck show, which was November. I think it was last year was November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And it was a 3-day event. And I learned that a 3-day truck show was too long.
Mm.
Um, it was a waste of financial resources. 2 days, a 2-day truck show was perfect. But you live and learn. That was
Yeah.
our second show. And this year's truck show, we cut it back from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We cut it back to Friday and Saturday. And last year's truck show, I was sick as a dog. I was hurting because I was still trying to recover from what they had done to me at the hospital in New Orleans, and I was slowly recovering. And I struggled for 3 days. It was a battle, but we pulled it off. We made some mistakes, but it was our second year, and we learned. This year, we learned from what the mistakes that we made last year, and we're
Sure.
going to improve upon those mistakes. We're not going to have mistakes this year. We just had a truck show board meeting today, and the whole board meeting was. I spoke about the mistakes that we made last year and how we are going to overcome those mistakes. That way we don't go backwards, we continue to move forward in a positive direction. And all I got back, I have a fantastic board of directors. Um, I had positive feedback, positive. They all had great ideas for this year, and this year is going to be a fantastic show. It's going to be a phenomenal show. I'm just amazed. Our first uh, our first truck show, we had 235 registered trucks, and we ended up with 135 that showed up, that actually showed up. And I
Hmm.
knew that. I knew I didn't. I wasn't quite sure on what the percentage of that was going to be, but I knew it was going to be fairly high because people, when the getting's good, you got to work that truck because the cost to do business in trucking is outrageous. So,
Yeah.
I understood why we only had 135. And last year, I think we registered last year 185, and we had like 115 show up last year. And that was mainly in part to the economy. The price of diesel was through the roof. The insurance industry in the state of Louisiana is just, the state of Louisiana makes it so hard if you own a trucking company or if you're owner operator. The state of Louisiana makes it so difficult to be able to make ends meet for your company, to make the bills, to pay your employees. And it's just really tough. Everybody's having a tough time in the trucking industry in our state because, and the major factor behind that, our state does not, the way they write the legislation, they say we have open markets, but they make it so expensive for these out of state insurance companies to come in to be able to do business in our state.
Mm.
So we have a handful of insurance companies that from the state of Louisiana that actually write policies, and it just makes it so difficult because of the price of maintaining insurance on your vehicles. But I lost my train of thought. Where we were, I forgot where I was going.
You were talking about the numbers from last year,
Oh
and
yeah,
so how's it going
and
this year?
and this year, we're on track the same as last year.
Okay.
Um, the sponsors we had on our first year, I think we had 5 or 6 decent sponsors. Last year, I want to say we had 30 major sponsors last year. Um, One of our major sponsors last year was Roadworks. I don't know, are you familiar with Roadworks?
No, I'm not.
Roadworks, they're truck accessory manufacturer. They
Okay.
manufacture chrome parts. But Roadworks was here. We had you heard of OOIDA, Owner Operators
Yep,
Independent
for sure.
Drivers?
I'm a member. Yep.
Well, about 2 weeks before the truck show last year, I get a phone call from Chicago, Illinois. And I'm like, who's this? So I answered the phone, and the gentleman told me he was with OOIDA organization. And he said, we would like to come to your truck show. I said, you sure you got the right number, man? And he said, Dad, he said, we're hearing nothing but good things about your truck show, and we want to be a part of it this year. I said, well, y'all come on. And, I told them the different sponsorship levels, and they ended up getting one of the levels. And I just couldn't believe it. They actually, they bought their 53-foot trailer last year,
Yeah.
which is basically like a radio station. And they
Yeah.
broadcasted live from the truck show last year. And I was just, I was amazed. I couldn't believe that we had pulled that off. And this year, one of our major sponsors this year is Bennett Family of Companies.
Okay.
That blew my mind. Miss Trotter with Bennett, she called me up. Well, she sent me an email with a phone number and told me to call her. So I called her, and she said, Barry, I want to thank you. I said, thank me for what? And she said, last year, your truck show fell the same date as our truck show. I said, I know. I said, I apologize. I said, I'm so sorry. I felt horrible, but I didn't, think any of it. I said the possibilities of somebody having a truck show the same date as mine, I didn't think it was, possible. And
Right.
lo and behold, Star Stripes and White Lines in Atlanta, Georgia, it was the same date as ours.
Yeah.
So this year I moved ours a week before theirs. And I did that intentionally. I didn't want, it's all about supporting the other truck shows on the truck show circuit. So
Yep.
I'm like, I got to move our truck show back or ahead. So I moved it back, and she got in touch with me to thank me for doing that. And she told me, she said, for doing that, we're gonna be signing up as a sponsor for y'all this
That's
year.
great.
So Miss, I think I can't remember Miss Trotter's first name. I got to use word association with everybody's name. But as far as the sponsors this year, it's last year the sponsors were signing up left and right, and this year it's really slow, and it's because of the state of the economy.
Yeah.
I don't have any worries. We are having a truck show. The truck show is not going anywhere. Um, we're going to be. I told the board that the next 2 to 3 weeks we're going to be popping in person, um, trying to sell sponsorships to the major companies. Um, I don't have any doubt. I think that all the sponsors that we had last year, and we probably had 30, between 30 and 40 big sponsors. They're going to sign up at the last minute. It's just the state of the state that the transportation industry is in right now. It's just a cost. Everybody's
Yeah.
kind of pinching pennies right now.
Yeah, it's tough, and every time you think it might get a little better, it seems to get a little bit worse. So at some point we'll get
Yeah,
to the bottom and get headed back in the right direction here. But
yeah, that would be nice.
so what's your favorite part about your truck show?
My favorite part every year when I open up the truck show, this is our third year, but every year I look forward to getting on stage and opening up the truck show. Um, we have different speakers to open up. Everybody speaks for 10, 15 minutes. And my favorite part is welcoming all the truck drivers that came from across the country. We had a truck driver that from Ontario, Canada, Mr. Clem. He came from Ontario, Canada. He found a load in our area just to come to our truck show, and he showed up to the truck show with a load. So that was awesome. But my favorite part is whenever I grab the microphone and I call everybody up to the front where the stage is, and I welcome everyone, and I tell all of our participants, I make sure that they all know that this is not my truck show. It's not the board of directors truck show. I tell them every year that that the truck show is for them. It's their truck show. The only involvement that we have, we put the pieces together that they give us to put on this truck show. And we're in my travels throughout the year, after like last year's truck show, um, I meet with different truck drivers. I just bump into different truck drivers here and there. And when we talk about the truck show, they always start the conversation. They say, "Hey, Barry, our truck show is going to be great this year." Hey, Barry, they use the word and I
Nice.
love that because they understand it's not my truck show, it's their truck show. And that's the biggest thing. I'm getting goosebumps talking about that. And my biggest thing on our first year and second year, the reason for this truck show is, yeah, we want to help our benefactors, but the main reason is to pull the trucking community, not only in our state, but throughout the country, to pull everyone together to support everyone.
Yeah.
Because in the tough times that we have, everybody's having a tough times financially, keeping the doors open, keeping the wheels turning. We need to support one another. We need to be there. Sometimes, people need fresh ideas. What are you doing with your company? How are you making it? And that's
Yep.
what our truck show is all about, supporting everybody. And
Yeah.
it's our first truck show. Another big thing that we don't do, and we never will do, we don't allow alcohol. We'll never allow alcohol. I don't think it's the right venue for alcohol. Uh, Something else that we do, and that will never change, we have a free event. It's free to the public. We don't charge for parking. We don't charge to get in. The only thing that if somebody comes to our truck show, the only thing that they pay for is for food and drinks. Our primary revenue source before the truck show is sponsorships, but it's not really a revenue source until you meet the cost of what it takes to put on that truck show.
Sure.
Um, And at the truck show on the grounds, our only revenue source is food and drink sales. And we have an auction. We auction off different items. Last year, our auction, I think we had like 30 items for auction, and we turned 12,500 in auction items. And I think we did 12,500, somewhere around there, in food and drink sales. Just barbecue, hamburgers, and drinks. And we sold a mess load of, and all the guys from the weight training center, those were the guys that ran the food and drink section. Those were the
That's great.
guys that helped us set up. They all worked on site, and I can't thank each and every one of those guys for helping out with that truck show the first year and the second year. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a great group of guys.
Well, and I hadn't been to any truck shows in quite a while until this year when I started going again. And what there's a tremendous energy at the truck shows, right? And yeah, times have changed. It's a different job. It's a different industry than it was when you and I started. And then before that, it's even more different than the years before that. But there's when you get together at a truck show and you see kids and you see families and you see like the reasons why we do this thing, trucking, it's yeah, it does. It brings you goosebumps. It brings a tear, lump in your throat. A lot of those things that you know, you're not reminded of every day.
Right.
The other cool thing about truck shows, now that I'm making the rounds more and seeing more of them and different ones, is the regional flair, right? The differences, and there's trucks that you won't see anywhere else than at this truck show because a lot of these trucks that it's not like you're going to drive 2,000 miles to bring these to the truck show. So there's you're going to see models and remodel jobs, makes of trucks and years of trucks that you're not going to see anywhere else in the country.
And Tony, I'm glad you said that. Not only, one of our things that we do, we support the truck driver, across the country. But one of the other things that our organization does, we support other truck shows, other regional truck shows, national truck shows, smaller truck shows in our area. We go out, we publicize for them. We do a little bit of advertising for them through Facebook. And we actually show up. We show up on site and we go visit with the organizers. We visit with every truck show that we go, like the Kimball family, Fred Kimball. They own Kimball Trucking in Port Allen, Louisiana. They put on a nice truck show every year, and we went out there and we supported them this year. And we seen a bunch of our trucks from our previous truck show that were over there supporting.
Yeah.
Another good show that we actually go to is the Gulf Coast Big Rig Truck Show. That was actually last weekend. I
Right.
went and I was a part of that, and it was just a phenomenal truck show. Another good truck show is one that Troy Massey puts on, Old Town Rig down in Nacogdoches, Texas.
Hmm.
That is a phenomenal truck show. It's just the the level and commitment that the owner operators put into the trucks, and not only blood, sweat, and tears. The amount of money that they put into these trucks is just astounding. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi have some of the most beautiful show trucks. They just take pride. I'm not saying everybody doesn't take pride,
Yeah,
but it's just that level of pride that, down here in Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, they put into their vehicles, their trucks. It's just
for sure.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, Barry. I'm so happy that we got a chance to talk and do an interview together. I'm really looking forward to coming to the show in October. And that's the 24th and 25th of October, right?
Yes, sir. And what I was thinking about after the board meeting today, I was driving back and I'm like, okay, I said, I need to do something for Tony. I'm honored. I'm honored that you picked, our organization to interview. I think that's awesome. Um, but what I'm wanting to do for you, if you come out to our truck show, I'm going to give you a spot with electricity. You could do your podcast live from the event on the 24th and 25th. I'll give you a spot, a table, chairs, a tent, whatever you need.
Oh, that's a wonderful thing, Barry. Thank you. Thank you for that. And let me convince my wife that this is a 2-day trip with and uh
You,
and we'll go from
Tony,
there.
you won't regret it. We have a phenomenal lineup of events. We actually last year, when I was thinking about, every year you got to do bigger and better.
Of
And
course.
last year we topped the first year. We did the convoy last year that turned out great. And I'm like, what can I do this year that's gonna top last year? And I was like, I'm gonna get the biggest projection screen uh, that I could find out there. The biggest one they sell. And long story short, I ended up finding a 22-foot tall projection screen, inflatable screen. And
Yeah.
Friday night we're gonna have a Friday night movie for the kids to come out.
Nice.
We're gonna serve free popcorn, free drinks, and we're gonna play Smoking the Bandit on the big screen that night. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
And then on
And what
Saturday we're gonna watch some Alabama football or something like that, or
I don't think we're gonna be watching football. We literally our first year. If you go back in our pictures and look at we had Angelo Felipe with Beverly Companies. He's a heavy haul company out of across the river from New Orleans, and he did some drone footage that was phenomenal
oh, cool.
on our first year. And all that drone footage that he did, we use it in our marketing materials last year and this year.
Yeah.
But when I look back at those pictures from the first year, we in that one day we had between 5 and 7,000 people come out. The entire parking for the facility from the drone footage there was no place to park. Just parking was, and I'm talking general public.
Hmm.
It just blows my mind that we had that much support from the community that came out to support the truck drivers. And last year we had about the same in attendance as far as general admission. And this year we have a phenomenal band. He's known throughout the country. His name is Jamie Bergeron and the Kicking Cajuns. They play Cajun music, Zydeco music, a little bit of everything, and they're just phenomenal. They put on a heck of a show. But he's going to be playing Saturday afternoon
Okay.
at the truck show this year, and he puts on a heck of a show. It's going to be a good time.
Nice. Well, that's great. Yeah, we'll get some links spread up on the social media pages with Barry's page and the website. And, just for people, I know there's a bunch of business owners who listen to the podcast. And, the one thing I know a bunch of people go to some of the bigger shows, right? The Mats and, the Florida Truck Show and the Texas Truck Show down in Houston. And, but there's an incredible power in these regional truck shows and the connections that you can make. Guys like Barry, the organizers, I mean, they're well connected, and there's opportunities to meet your potential clients by getting involved in these regional truck shows. So it's definitely something for everybody listening to consider. Reach out to Barry, and if you're interested in a sponsorship and help raise some money for a great cause.
That's awesome. I thank you for that, Tony.
All right, thanks, Barry. You have a great night. Good talking to you. We'll talk again soon.
You too. Talk to you soon. Thank you,
All
Tony.
right.